Hello, this is Mrs. Brown, and today we're going to look at how to justify solving an equation. This is our first example. So what this means when I mean justify or justification, it's what allows me to do what I'm doing. So the reason mathematically that I'm allowed to do what I'm doing. So these are going to be where a lot of your properties are going to come in, like the commutative property or the distributive property. And when you're moving things from side to side, your properties of equality that we've been learning about. Those are all going to be really important when the parts of justifying. So if I'm looking at this equation, it says given because this is the first thing that I do. This is what I'm given. I haven't done anything. This is what the book tells me I have to solve. This is what the teacher tells me I have to solve. So this is the start. So it's the given. That's how we call it. And when I'm looking at this, what would I do first? How would I solve this? Well, I see 3 and then parentheses, and there's a subtraction problem inside. So like you should be thinking, hey, that looks like the distributive property. So of course I'm going to use the distributive property. So what would I do? I do -3 times this and -3 times this, and I would be able to distribute that -3. Remember that you have to be careful when you're distributing a negative number because it's going to change the sign of the stuff. So this is a positive, so it's going to be negative down here because a negative times a positive is a negative. A negative, this is a minus sign, so it's like a negative times a negative. This is going to become a plus. So just be really careful when you're distributing. So -3 times positive 5x is going to give me -15x. And -3 times a -4 is going to give me a plus 12 because 3 times 4 is 12. And again, it's like a negative times a negative. And then I just bring over the 18. Well, again, what did we say? Well, it looked like the distributive property. That's what allowed me to do it. I distributed. So my justification would be the distributive property. Okay, so now let's think, what would I do next when I'm solving? Well, when I'm solving, remember that we're working backwards through the order of operations. So we're going to do the opposite of the order of operations. The last step is addition and subtraction. So the first thing I'm going to get rid of when I'm solving is addition and subtraction. So that means I'm going to get rid of the plus 12 before the -15 times. So I'm going to subtract 12. And remember that if I do it on this side of the equation to keep it balanced, I subtract 12 over here. If I have 12, I spend 12, I have no money. If I borrow $18 and then borrow another 12, I now owe you 30. So I'm left with -30 here. I've gotten rid of the 12, so I'm left with -15x on this side equals -30. Okay, what allowed me to do this? Well, that was my first step was the distributive property. My second step, I subtracted a number on both sides. So this is going to be the subtraction property of equality. Sorry, I'm writing rather messily because I'm going quickly. And then my last step here, the opposite of multiplying by -15 is dividing by -15. If I divide this side by -15, I divide this side by -15. -15 divided by -15 is 1, because anything divided by itself is 1, times x is x. 30 divided by 15 is 2, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So the final answer is going to be x equals 2. What was my justification for this step? Well, it's something done on both sides, so it's a property of equality, and what operation I used was division. So it's the division property of equality. Okay. So again, you solve like you normally would solve. You go through the steps, but instead of just going through the steps, when you justify, you're telling on each step what allowed you or what the property is that allows you to solve each of those. Okay? I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon.